Okay, vital signs and monitoring devices. We've been over these things, so this shouldn't be too difficult for you. We're going to talk about how to get a blood pressure. We're going to talk about what those numbers mean because they are important. We're going to talk about how to assess pupils, how to count respirations, where to listen, that kind of thing. We're going to talk about documenting our vital signs. And I can tell you how it is so important to write down that set of vital signs as soon as you get it because you will forget them. We're going to talk about different monitoring devices. We looked at the pulse oximeter, I think, last night and some other things that are out there. Okay, getting your vital signs. Vital signs really are an outward check of what's going on inside the body. Those will be our objective measurement of what's going on with our patient. By getting a set of vital signs, we get an early vital signs, a middle vital signs, late vital signs. We're able to set a trend with our patient. We can tell if they're getting better or if they're getting worse. So we need to make sure we get several sets, not just one. You're going to get a set of vital signs on every patient. The state of Alabama requires in your documentation, in your run reports, that you get at least 2 sets of vital signs. But there'll be patients that you may get 10 sets of vital signs. Or you might only check their respirations a couple times, but you check their blood pressure 6 or 8 times. It'll be based on the patient. Sometimes, if you look on your sheets, on your trauma sheets, look on there and see where it says you check vital signs. Is it early, like the initial assessment? Or is it bottom, like
The
middle?
pulse is a vital sign.
It's almost at the end. It's way on down at the end, right? But during the initial assessment, we check a pulse, so we're not counting the pulse. We check respirations, and we're not counting respirations. So in vital signs, we're actually counting those and documenting them. So our vital signs are kind of late in the process. Now, if you've got a lot of people around, you may assign a partner to go ahead and get some vital signs. But if it's just you, it's a lower priority because you don't get a whole lot of initial information about it, typically speaking. But if you've got a patient that's very critical, they're having respiratory problems or they're bleeding out all over the place or whatever, then vital signs, you may not get vital signs. I've probably had a handful or 2 of patients over the years that I just didn't get any vital signs on. You know, if you're spending all of your time just trying to keep them from bleeding to death, you know, in their mouth, then you're not going to like stop that and get a blood pressure, right? So sometimes their condition will be so critical that you may not get a set of vital signs, and that's okay. But if you don't get a set of vital signs, what do you have to do? Make them up? Is that what you said? Make them up?
How many are important?
Yeah, you got to make sure you document that you didn't get any and why. Didn't get any vital signs. I was too busy holding the patient's neck on his head so he didn't bleed to death. Okay, that's a good reason. Okay, vital signs. What exactly are vital signs? Now, your book may have 4 or 5 things listed, and I've added a couple of ones here. Kind of expanded it a little bit. Pulse and respiration, we know that part. Those are no-brainers. Your skin signs, those really are like vital signs. You want to make sure you check a capillary refill on the little kids. You want to make sure you're monitoring the patient's skin signs. You'll check their pupils. You need to get in the habit of always checking a patient's pupils. Now, you may get out in the field, somebody may say, well, I'm only going to check their pupils if I think they're on drugs or I think they've had a head injury. Now, something's going to come back and bite you over that. You think of it as one of your vital signs and just always check their pupils. You'll always get their blood pressure. You always check their pulse oximetry. Ideally, you want to check their pulse ox as soon as you come in. When you start interviewing your patient, you can just slide that little baby right on their finger. You have what we call a room air saturation. And there's something here I want you to make sure you know because I don't want you to like crinkle up my ears. What is that word? Saturation. If I spelled it right. Huh?
The percentage of up to 100.
Yeah, saturation is the big word. Sat is the short word. When we say a room air sat, we're talking about a room air saturation. We talk about the pulse oximetry. We're getting a pulse ox or a sat or an oxygen sat. Don't say stat. Out of a class of 23, 10 of you are going to say stat. And every time I hear it, I cringe. It's a saturation, so we shorten it by saying a sat. There are medics out there that say sat. And you have my permission to tell them, well, it's sat. It's short for saturation. It's not a stat like it's a statistic, okay? That really drives me crazy. Okay, we're going to get a baseline vital sign. Baseline basically just tells you the first set that you got. It's like a reference point, a beginning point for you. And then we'll repeat vital signs because it's going to tell us which direction our patient is going. And the more sets you get, the better. We're looking to establish a trend. For instance, if your patient has a, oh, I'm going to write on this board. Have y'all been able to see when I write on the board, does it come up on the PowerPoint?
No.
It does? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't.
Before.
Has it? Okay.
I haven't seen it.
All right, say you check your patient's pulse. We'll find out. We'll check this one. You check your patient's pulse, and it is 120. Is that good or bad?
What was that for?
Huh?
What was that for?
This is the pulse.
High.
That's a high pulse.
So it's a little bit high. Okay, the second one you get is he getting better or worse? Okay. The third one you get is he getting better or worse?
Better.
Maybe.
What was hers?
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. If the fourth one you get is 82, and the fifth one you get is 56, and this one is, how's he doing?
Not so hot.
Not so hot anymore. That makes this 120 look good, doesn't it? Yeah. So a lot of it's going to depend on subsequent sets of vital signs as to whether they're getting better or getting worse. For instance, did I mess it up? Oh, how about that? I'm all right with green this time. No, I was all right with green last time. That figures. Say the blood pressure. Say the initial blood pressure is 120 over 80. Is that good or bad?
Perfect.
Probably looks good, doesn't it? All right, say the next blood pressure is, say this was the blood pressure you got on him. In the course of your conversation, you said, well, what's your blood pressure normally? He says, well, it's usually about 180 over 100. So how good is his blood pressure now? Oh, that's real bad. If his normal blood pressure is 180 and you got him at 120, he's not doing so good. So if you get it next time and now it's at 100 over 70, is he getting better or worse? Okay. Let's see. I'm not going to do more examples right now. I'm going to keep moving here. But sometimes you can't tell just by that initial set of vital signs which way you're going. But by getting subsequent ones, you see a trend, and that's important. A pulse. A pulse is a palpable pressure that you're checking, which represents the left ventricle pulsing or pumping. So you palpate it. Palpate means touch, okay? So palpated pressure of the heart beating is going to be the pulsing. All right, here's a question for, what happened to the thing? Who did that? No, it's not open. Oh, food. Oh, it's just this one. Okay, what does palpate mean? It's not going to open. All right, A, B, C, or D? A. Palpate means C? Who likes C?
B.
Good. Come on. Yay! Everybody get it right. This is not going to be very much fun. I'm so sad. Okay, you feel a pulse anywhere that a major artery runs over a bone. Most of your arteries are a little bit deeper in your body, deeper than veins. Like if you look at this arm and you see these little blue things, what are those? Those are going to be veins. The arteries are hiding somewhere deeper in for a reason, I'm sure. So the only way we're really going to be able to feel a pulse is if we feel it where it runs over a bone. That's why this radial pulse is so nice. Because, what's the matter, John?
I don't know if this thing's working.
It should be working. Does the lights come on?
No.
I turn it on.
If you hit a button, it's that little thing.